South Korea looks futuristic online, but living there as a foreigner, that's a completely different story. For millions of people around the world, South Korea feels exciting. Modern cities, amazing food, ultra-fast internet, safe streets, and a culture that has exploded globally through K-pop, K-dramas, Korean beauty, and Korean food. But what happens when the vacation ends and real life begins? Because living in South Korea as a foreigner is not the same as visiting for 2 weeks. Behind the neon lights and trendy cafes, there's another side people rarely talk about: the pressure, the loneliness, the cultural differences, the hidden costs, and the everyday realities that many foreigners don't expect until they actually move there. Some foreigners absolutely love living in South Korea and stay for years. Others leave much sooner than expected. So, what is it really like? And by the end of this video, you'll know whether South Korea is truly the right place for you or just a beautiful place to visit. The advantages. The healthcare. The national health insurance system in South Korea is not a compromised safety net for people who cannot afford better. It is genuinely, by international comparative measures, one of the best healthcare systems in the world. The OECD consistently places South Korea among the top 5 countries globally for a combination of healthcare access, outcome quality, and cost efficiency. The combination of universal coverage, extremely low patient co-sharing, and the extraordinary density of healthcare facilities, particularly in Seoul, creates a healthcare environment that is almost incomprehensible to someone used to the American system. South Korea boasts the best healthcare system in Asia, with advanced facilities like Asan Medical Center and Samsung Medical Center and Seoul National University Hospital. Seoul alone has more hospitals per capita than the United States. The density of medical facilities in the city, not just large tertiary hospitals, but neighborhood clinics, specialist offices, 24-hour urgent care centers, means that healthcare is physically accessible in a way that American healthcare geography simply does not match. Safety. And this is the one that consistently produces the most emotional response from Western expats who experience it for the first time, because South Korea's safety record consistently ranks among the best globally. Its homicide rate is approximately 0.6 per 100,000 people, compared to the United States figure of 6.3. South Korea's homicide rate is literally 10 times lower than the United States. It is comparable to Iceland, Japan, and Singapore, countries that the world holds up as safety exemplars. Internet and digital infrastructure. South Korea offers some of the fastest internet in the world, averaging over 100 megabits per second. This is not the national average. This is what you get in an ordinary apartment in an ordinary neighborhood without any premium service tier. In the major cities, fiber connections of 500 megabits to 1 gigabit per second are standard residential internet. The download speed test you might celebrate in an American suburb is what Koreans consider their baseline. Mobile data coverage in South Korea is effectively universal across the entire peninsula. There are no dead zones in cities. Coverage on subway platforms, underground, across multiple city subway systems is standard and reliable. On KTX high-speed trains traveling between cities at 300 kilometers per hour, your video call works without interruption. This is the infrastructure standard that South Korea has built, and it is available to every resident, including foreign retirees, as a component of ordinary daily life. Food. Korean cuisine is built around fermentation, seasonality, communal sharing, and the balance of the 5 flavors: sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and spicy. Kimchi, the fermented vegetable dish, most commonly made from napa cabbage, that accompanies virtually every Korean meal, is not just a condiment, it is a living, probiotic, complex, deeply flavorful food that has sustained Korean civilization for centuries and now is recognized globally for its health benefits and culinary sophistication. Cost of living. And here, I want to be very specific and very honest, because South Korea is not cheap in the way that Cambodia or Nicaragua is cheap. It is a developed, high-standard country with developed, high-standard pricing in certain categories. But the overall comparison to equivalent quality in the United States or Western Europe is genuinely favorable, and in specific categories, it is dramatically favorable. South Korea offers a cost of living roughly 20 to 25% lower than major U.S. cities. A two-bedroom in a good Seoul neighborhood, 1,200 to 2,200. Outside Seoul, in Busan, South Korea's second city, in Daegu, in Jeonju, in Gyeongju, comparable apartments rent for $300 to $700 monthly, reflecting the dramatically lower cost base of Korean secondary cities without significant sacrifice in urban quality of life. Electricity, gas, and water in a standard Korean apartment, 40 to 80 US dollars monthly, dramatically lower than US equivalents, partly because Korean apartments are extremely well insulated, and partly because energy pricing reflects policy choices that favor residential users. The honest challenges. The language barrier. Korean, Hangul, uses its own script, its own grammar structure, its own phonological system. For an English speaker, it is classified as a Category 4 language by the U.S. Foreign Service Institute, equivalent to Japanese, Arabic, and Mandarin in terms of learning difficulty for English speakers. Full professional fluency requires 800 to 1,200 hours of dedicated study. Hangul is a phonetic alphabet of 24 letters that was specifically designed to be learnable. You could read Korean menus, street signs, and subway directions within a month of arriving. You will not understand what you are reading, but you can sound it out, search it, translate it, in a way that makes daily navigation dramatically more accessible than Japanese or Chinese. Cultural adaptation. Korean society is built on Confucian values that emphasize hierarchy, collective harmony, respect for elders and authority, and the paramount importance of nunchi, a Korean concept that roughly translates as the ability to read a room, to sense what others are feeling and needing without being explicitly told, and to adjust one's behavior accordingly. Age hierarchy in Korea is explicit and grammatically encoded in the language itself. Korean has different speech levels for speaking to elders versus peers versus juniors, and using the wrong level is genuinely offensive. The first question Koreans often ask when meeting someone new is how old they are, not because they are being nosy, but because they need to know the appropriate speech level and social posture for the relationship. Cost and climate considerations. South Korea is the most expensive country in Asia for retirement by the standards of comparative expat content. South Korea is the most expensive option on the list, but offers the highest standard of living. The honest implication, if your retirement budget is primarily Social Security income in the $1,500 to $2,000 monthly range, South Korea, particularly Seoul, will be tight. The climate. South Korea has 4 genuine seasons, which is either an advantage or a challenge depending entirely on your preferences and your body's tolerance. Summers are hot and humid. Seoul in July and August regularly reaches 35 degrees Celsius with high humidity, a combination that is genuinely uncomfortable and that requires indoor air conditioning as a daily necessity. Winters are cold. Seoul in January averages -6 degrees Celsius with wind chill that can make it feel significantly colder. Snow is common in winter, though the city manages it effectively. The spring and autumn seasons in South Korea are genuinely extraordinary. The cherry blossom season in April, the autumn foliage season in October and November, and these 2 seasons are when the country is at its most visually beautiful and at its most climatically comfortable.